It is time to talk about the top 10 best Yu-Gi-Oh characters. I'm just going to cut straight to the chase, people. We all know this video is going to be long as fuck. And that is because we're talking about the characters I just love. These are the characters in this franchise that make it what it is. These are the people who stick with you. These are the people who make you forget they're fake and make you want to know them, make you be fascinated by them. In some cases, be afraid of them. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Has some vibrant, fascinating character writing, and it's given us some of the best characters of their style in all of anime, and I love these guys. This is my list, of course. It's all opinion, but as far as I'm concerned, my opinion is law. And look, you see the length of the vid, you know I've got a lot of reasons why you should love these characters as much as I do. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're starting the list off with a villain, but not just any Yu-Gi-Oh villain. This guy isn't loud, he is not over the top, he is not goofy. Number 10 is Rex Goodwin. And because he's not any of the usual things you expect out of a Yu-Gi-Oh villain, hell, he's nothing even like the villains you're going to see on the rest of this list, it's kind of what makes him fascinating. Now, hear me out. So the thing about Goodwin is that what makes him scary is that you totally 100% understand everything about him. He's not crazy, he's not insane, he has no problem sitting you down and having a good conversation about why he justifies the fucked up things that he does and believes. There is an entire conversation between him and Jack where he simply just explains why it's okay to have the satellite sector and all these poor people stuck in a system they can never get out of and basically enslaved. And, well, you hear it and you kind of see where he's coming from, and that's the scary thing. A good science fiction villain in something like a 5D style story should have that ability to make you understand the world. He should have that ability to make you understand why they think it's an okay thing to do this, and that's what makes him great. And when you learn about his backstory and his drama and all that, you kind of look at what he ends up and you're kind of like, yeah, I can believe this, I can buy this, I can understand this. However, he is also cunning, he is intelligent, and he is manipulative. He knows how to get exactly what he wants, and every step of the way in 5Ds, I really felt like he did a good job of showing why these were the logical things to do to get what he ultimately wanted. And a lot of that is in the performance. Both the Japanese actor and the English dub actor, names on screen, do a fantastic job of making him seem intelligent and cunning. And I gotta give it more to the dub actor, who I think I actually liked better. But yeah, no, for a show like 5Ds that wanted to be more mature, or at least try to be more mature, you needed a more mature and intelligent villain, and I feel like he's a great way to do it. To come after a villain as iconic as Pegasus is no easy task. Fortunately, Merrick Ishtar does it with perfection. Merrick is a great villain and really pretty big and revolutionary for the time. Hear me out. First and foremost, as a villain, he's great. Once he shows up and he's manipulating Bandit Keith, everything is done perfectly to help you understand why this guy is eviler than Pegasus, scarier than Pegasus, and more powerful than Pegasus. He doesn't fall into the typical shonen trap of after a while every villain becomes samey. He genuinely feels like he is a bigger threat. Everything from like the criminal organization to just sort of the very grounded idea of he just steals shit to make him money. Like everything about Merrick, even the profile and the performance, is just very scary. But what really makes him great is when you learn that backstory. And you are told that essentially he never really had the chance to be a good person. This was also good because this was the first time Yu-Gi-Oh! Brought up the idea of fate being a bad thing. Like, Merrick's family isn't rewarded or looked at as being good because they sat there waiting for the pharaoh for like 10,000 years. No, it's a bad thing that they did this, and nothing excuses the way Merrick's father treated anybody. And the show never really hides away from that, because after you learn the backstory, it's not then like, oh, but you should still hate him anyways. Like, no, the rest of Merrick's story, once the Yami Merrick takes over, is him trying to get redemption, trying to save himself, trying to bring himself back, and the whole time I'm kind of like, yeah, and it was one of the first times I really asked myself, could I have gone down the villainous path if I was like this, if I was raised this way? Like, he's a really good, strong, relatable villain, and when he needs to be big and scary. I think once again I gotta give it to the dub performance this time. The Japanese actor is very good, but I felt like the dub actor really nailed making Merrick scary and over the top, and then really worked at making him sympathetic when you actually had to learn about him later. It's a good performance and a great character, and I think something we all remember to this day. So after 6 shows, how does Yugioh show off its new rival? Hasn't blow up a fictional planet, damn it! This is Revolver. Revolver, from the minute he shows up, is powerful. That is what I think of when I think of this guy. I think the dude who's just gonna walk in and just take over the situation and just like start taking out whoever he doesn't like. And the show does a expert job of bringing this guy to you. Now look, Vrain's had a lot of problems. This guy is not one of them. It always felt like whenever the Ignises or Soul Technologies was doing something bad, you just felt Revolver nudging on your shoulder going like, hey, you wanna know what we should do? Blow these motherfuckers up. And that what was scary about him, was that even though you don't want to agree with him, you don't like his methods, you don't like that he's hurting people, you don't like that he doesn't really have a lot of respect for human life, you sort of always understand where he's coming from, and the show gives you a lot of examples for why maybe you should side with him. He's well executed, he's well written, he's well animated, he's well acted. This is the first time I'm going to give it up to the Japanese voice actor on this list. Well, from what I saw, the dub guy does alright. I definitely think the Japanese voice actor just gives this character such a level of power and intelligence. It's a truly fantastic performance and a truly fantastic rival. I mean, he uses Borolo Dragon, for Christ's sake. We should know Konami knew what they were doing with this guy. He may look like a hipster Kaiba, but he wound up being so much more. Next we have Reiji Akiba, a character who is terrifying, he is intelligent, and he is executed pitch perfectly. Every scene with Reiji in it is framed just right. He's always treated like a villain. Even when he's doing the right thing, even when he says he's doing the right thing, you always feel like, okay, well, what is he really after? What are his ulterior motives? What does A, B, and C get to him? You always feel like every human being is only worth as much to him as he can get out of them later. And that's what makes him so compelling to follow, because every character, even though they don't trust him, they don't like him, has no choice because he's so much more intelligent and powerful. It's like everything in the show is designed around telling you why you need to follow this guy, even though you really don't want to. And that is so hard to pull off. All these hyper-intelligent characters in anime screw it up because you never can follow their intelligence. They do everything off screen. But by framing Reiji as someone to be feared, it really brings it all together. And it's great, and it's fascinating, and I just love him. And clearly Konami does too, because they just put in a new master rule to make his deck great again. It is now time to pay homage to the OG, Yu-Gi-Oh's first great villain, the one, the only, Maximilian Pegasus. Oh my god, he is such an iconic, not just Yu-Gi-Oh character, but anime villain of the early 2000s. I have for a while now been suspecting a lot of anime villains that came after Yu-Gi-Oh came out took a lot of inspiration from this guy. And how the fuck could you not? Pegasus sets the template and the trends so well. He's smart, he's clever, he's crafty, he's manipulative, he's controlling. He always feels like he's more powerful than the hero. I've said that a lot with characters on this list, but what also makes Pegasus so much more iconic and so much more memorable than any real other Yu-Gi-Oh villain in a lot of people's eyes is just he's so damn entertaining. Like, every scene he's in, he's chewing scenery, he is also being threatening, he's also being intimidating, and he just looks different. Like, design-wise, he's so much more than what we were getting at the time in kids anime and even just a lot of media here in general. He's not this big, scary crime boss, he's just kind of this dude in a suit. He doesn't have an outwardly scary appearance, but everything about him is just so interesting and so much fun to watch. He's the kind of villain you kind of just want to hang out with. Like, I would totally go get a beer with this guy. He's just so interesting and unique to follow. His character is rich and interesting. His backstory is sad and full of tragedy. And when he's just doing everything he's doing, you just feel that at all times. Pegasus is such an interesting, unique villain and had such an impact on me and the way I write villains, and I think the way a lot of people in the anime industry treat their bad guys. He was, for a whole generation of kids, the first exposure to intelligent villains, to villains who don't need to look scary, villains who simply just are scary. And I will always love Pegasus, and there's just so much more that can be said about him, but simply put, you're amazing, my man. We've talked a lot about villains on this list, and let us talk about my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh villain of them all, fucking Yuri. Yuri is awesome. From the minute he walks on screen, he just owns every scene, and the writers and animators are so apparent about this. They just give him all the best facial expressions, all the best one-liners. Everything is given to this guy. He doesn't get nearly as much screen time as some of the other characters we've talked about so far, but he makes every scene count in just so many perfect ways. I just love this guy. Everything from Kenshin Ono's performance to the way the Predaplans perfectly complement the design to just everything they give him to do. This is a character where just every scene he's in sticks with you. Every aspect of his personality is fascinating, and I think he really gets to you on this personal, almost cathartic level of he's just the unbeatable monster coming to kill you. Cause sort of the thing is that there's a lot we never learn about him. And even though, I would have liked to have known more about Yuri, I think there is something to be said of he's just kind of crazy. Yeah, he seems to believe in what Professor Akiba is after, but he has no problem just dumping it at the turn of a hat when something more entertaining comes around. He's just so much stronger than anybody, and he just gets so much pleasure from just being so sadistic and hate-filled, and just, it's so freaking awesome. It's so personal and just dark and just interesting to watch. He's one of those characters where I would totally watch a show just about him killing people. That'd be fucking amazing. I love Yuri so much, and I wish he was the Kensho Ono performance that was the main character. Number 4, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has had some good female characters, some not so good female characters, but there is one who rises above all the rest for many reasons. My personal favorite are 2 big reasons, hint hint, and it is Akiza. Akiza is a great character. First up, that design, holy shit, she's fucking hot. This is one of just my favorite anime girls ever, just design-wise. Everything about this design just works. Even though the outfit is a little silly and overly complicated, just something about that right combination of skin tone and height and facial features and hair and color palette just makes it all come together. For those of you who don't remember, this was a fairly common design for sort of tough anime chicks at the time, the side red hair, the overly crimson look, the kind of violent attitude. But Akiza is the best by far. I mean, look at her. But if we're going past that, and you don't really have to enjoy this character, Akiza's just great. Her whole storyline and arc is so fascinating and interesting and kind of comes out of left field. Because in the last two Yu-Gi-Ohs, Taya and Alexis had their good moments, but I wouldn't say they really did a lot to move the plot forward. Akiza just, shows up and just dominates. Like, her entrance in the witch outfit, just, destroying everything in sight. The power of Black Rose Dragon was so different and creative from what we have seen before. It was the perfect complement for 5D's more in-your-face adult tone. It really gave it this sort of serious look to it, and they never really falter or go away from it. When you learn more about her, when, you say duels her the first time, it really felt like you got to see her cult programming, just controlling her mind. And the way Yusei kind of fights it back, and just everything about it is just so good and great. And then, when Yusei saves her, and that is such a great duel, that second duel, just the visuals and the violence of the scene and the way she acts and everything, it's just fucking fantastic. And then everything she has in the Dark Signer arc, it's just a great character. If I were to pick a gripe, I would say that I don't like that she's sort of put in the back burner in season 2, so that way we can have the male power fantasies just be male power fantasies. But whenever she did get time and focus on her, it's still great, and she still completely consumes every scene she's a part of. Akiza is a well-written character, and probably my favorite part of 5Ds. Just everything with her was so well executed. I mean, there's a reason they let the last 3 episodes be told from her perspective. It's because she went the furthest and had the most to show for it. So yeah, Akiza, you are great. Love looking at you. Okay, so 3 through 1 are a little interchangeable. This is just kind of what I'm feeling at the moment. But starting off with number 3 is Ryoga Kamishiro, aka Shark, aka Nash, aka Reginald. Let's never call him Reginald, fuck the dub. Ryoga is great. I remember when Zale first got announced, and our first picture was Yuma, Kotori, and this guy. And I kind of got the feeling that, he's just going to be a generic bully. And for the first, 2 episodes, he is. But then as the show progresses, you keep getting this feeling there's more to him, that there's more going on with this guy, that you want to learn more about this guy. And once they start opening that can of worms, oh god, it's brilliant. Everything with his sister, everything with 4, everything with the shark number, all of that is great. His duels are great, because since for the first few arcs he doesn't have any magic, he's just kind of winning because he's that fucking good, and a lot of his plays and strategies actually make a lot of sense. So that's really cool. Then you find out, he does have magic, and he does have a greater destiny and all this, and oh god, it's so heartbreaking. When you find out he's Nash, and you learn everything that happened to him, when you learn about when he was a human the first time, when he became a demon, all this shit, it's heartbreaking. You're just oh my god, this was when Destiny truly became the enemy in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. This was a guy who wanted to make good. He wanted to better himself. He wanted to become more than kind of the jerk he'd been. Then he finds out what he truly is, and you just feel that pain and anguish when he becomes head of the Baryons. You're not oh boy, here's our next opponent, here's the big villain. It's kind of you just want him to feel better, and you can see where he's coming from. You can understand why he's doing this and why he goes the way he goes. That pain he has is so perfectly written and acted and put together. Everything about Ryoga is just great. Even the Nash design is fantastic. He's in my favorite duel of all time. He's in my favorite set of scenes of all time. He is a fantastic character and truly the best rival. Number 2 is the character that saved the show. It's I. I is so damn perfect. From the minute he shows up, he takes complete control of the series and he never lets it go. From the minute he shows up, he is fun, he is quirky, he is interesting, he is likable, he is mysterious, he is fascinating, he is everything you need him to be and more. He is expertly acted. His animation is incredible. Like, everything about Ai is pretty much perfect. He just always throughout the series kept me invested. It didn't matter, no matter how choppy or bad the writing and execution was, he just always managed to keep me entertained and keep me going. And when it was time for him to now be sad and bring drama to it, it went off without a hitch. Human Form Ai, that entire last bit of the show, is great because of him. Yugioh tries so often than not to make it look like everyone gets a happy ending. And yes, the last few seconds of Reigns could mean Ai does potentially get one. But if we're just going based on what the 100% what is in front of us, based on the show, it is so ballsy that Ai's character arc does not end in happiness. It ends in tragedy. It ends in sadness, and you are on board with that drama the entire time. When he dies, it's a gut-wrenching scene, and it's so beautifully executed and so perfectly acted. Ai is easily one of the best characters in the franchise, and maybe just the best AI character in fiction we've ever had. Number 1 is Yuma. If you've been following me long enough, you probably saw this coming. But what can I say about Yuma that I haven't already said in multiple other videos? Well, I'll say that what really puts him above everyone else is that Zale or Zexel or Zeal or whatever the fuck you want to call it is his story. It is from beginning to end about him. And that is why he's the only protagonist on this list, because a common failing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonists for me is, well, look at everyone else here. Everyone else ends up being more interesting and unique. And that's not a problem, but I had already accepted this when Zale had started. So when Yuma comes along and I realize we're doing Hero's Journey, and we're doing Hero's Journey and Coming of Age, we're doing it right, I realized this could very well be something special. And it was. It's the ultimate story of the kid who starts off as nothing, just every other kid. And then you see his trials, his tribulations, you see him grow, you see every bad, horrible thing that happens to him. And when you get to that end, and you see how much stronger and better he is on the other side, it's why we are so fascinated with storytelling. It's why we care so much about fictional nonsense. And don't get me wrong, this doesn't discredit any of the other characters on this list or what I love about them, or even the dozens of great Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters I couldn't get to today. But with Yuma, like, above all else, we want to hear stories because we want to feel like there's something special out there. We want to feel that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we want to feel that we can get there, that we really are the masters of our own story, and I think Yuma embodies that perfectly. He is the star of his story, and he uplifts and makes an entire show, and I think he just has a 100% perfect arc. There's a reason I've gone on about him so much. One of the greatest kid characters probably ever, in my opinion, and it really is great. But just because he's number 1, it doesn't mean that these other characters aren't fantastic, and that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has brought us so many amazing characters, even in their less than stellar shows, says a lot to the quality of this franchise. It's not just another toy commercial franchise where characters just exist to sell you product. No, Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters, for the most part, are written with care and creativity and given charisma and the desire to follow them in a way not a lot of franchises do. And I think these characters are a testament to how much effort and love really goes into crafting a Yu-Gi-Oh show, and the future love and crafting that will go into future Yu-Gi-Oh shows. So yeah, this is my list of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh characters, but I want you to tell me yours below. I'm sure yours will be totally different from mine, and that's what's so great, is there's just so many great characters to talk about in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! So yeah, tell me all that below, and as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next time for more praising this good franchise.